And when you don't need anything, that's when you're going to meet your real soul tribe. And then all of the powerful beings start coming together. And that's when we create formidable magic and powerful alchemy. And we start to create communities around the world where we share and care. And the planet's resources are shared between all men, women, and children. Nobody's fighting. Nobody's trying to dominate. Everybody's just trying to share and love and help each other up the ladder.
Man, this episode was amazing. I got a chance to talk to Jerry Sargeant from Star Magic Healing, and man, we went on a journey. We went to a lot of different places. We talked about a lot of very interesting stuff. We talked about the dragon beings. We talked about the energy work, energy healing, speaking in tongues, or as some would call it, light language, healing frequencies, healing codes and modalities, UFOs, extraterrestrials, and the beings that are here to help us. Man, really have loved this brother. Been watching his videos for years, so it was such an honor to finally connect with him. You guys are in for a treat or a retreat. Leads me to my next segue. We have a retreat coming up that we wanted to announce. So this is going to be in December, and we want to see you in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Watch this clip. People often ask me if I really believe in energy healing. And once you understand that everything is energy, everything is moving, everything is vibration, once you understand that, then you can amplify the energy, you can direct energy, you can cleanse energy, and yes, you can heal energy as well.
Everything has a frequency, a sound, a vibration. Let's come together in Colorado Springs and ignite the fire on the altar of our hearts. Let's realign with Christ and the Christ frequency. We've witnessed so many people experience breakthrough in our sacred sound immersion sessions. We know that God has something powerful in store for you. Join us December 6th, 7th, and 8th in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and let's ignite the fire again. Tickets to this small, intimate gathering are extremely limited. Get your tickets at seer.school today.
Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. I present to you Jerry Sargeant in Star Magic Healing.
Cool, bro.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the TruthSeekah podcast. I'm excited to be with you again for another episode. Today, my guest is Jerry Sargeant. Jerry, welcome to the show, brother. Good to have you.
Thank you so much, Derek. It's awesome to be here, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, man. I love to capture our first interactions on camera with these podcasts and stuff. And so we were starting to talk, and I was like, hold on, let me just push record and let's just jump into it, man. So talking about, traveling the planet and, putting down these grids that you're doing, and this amazing work that you've been called to do. And, man, just excited to jump into your work. I've been following your stuff for years, over the years. I guess it comes up when it's supposed to, but your Star Magic Healing, your modalities that you guys have been working with for years, the guided meditations, the light language stuff, everything that's on your app and the website, I'm here for it, and I've been a member for some time. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and it's really an honor to finally connect with you.
Man, just thank you for having me, It's like we were saying before, our paths crossed at the right time. And yeah, I mean, I was watching some of your videos. It was good to kind of get put onto your stuff too, man. It's awesome to connect with another brother.
For sure, man. We're gonna talk about some of the modalities, the science behind it, man. What you're doing, it's some amazing stuff. Anybody can easily go to your website. They can go to Star Magic Healing and like watch the promo stuff of these, transformations that are happening with people, miracles that are happening, miraculous healings. Like, I'm a student of Yeshua, right? Of who the world calls Jesus Christ. And like, we find ourselves like when we're aligned in healing and reading these ancient texts or whatever about these people who walked in this supernatural abilities. And then once we're aligned in that, we start seeing our lives kind of like mirror that and copying some of the miracles and things that were happening, life coming back to people, love filling people's hearts, physical manifestations of healings, that you have so many reports of so many things that are being healed, and ailments that are being defeated and destroyed and stuff, man. So watching the videos and reading the testimonies from your work, dude, has been super encouraging, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, last year we did an American tour last year, up into Canada as well. And it was about 6 weeks, and we went to just lots of different cities, and we did these 2-day group healings in every city. And some of the things that were happening, they just bring you to tears, like the people that have not been walking, like they've got multiple sclerosis. The doctors have said you're going to be in a wheelchair forever. And these people are turning up in wheelchairs or motorized wheelchairs. And second day of the group healing, they're getting up and they're walking to the toilet. And it's like, whoa, I mean, these things happen a lot, but even though they happen a lot, you never really take it for granted. You're just like, I just can't believe this. Like the team and I look at each other and think, just look at that. Like, this is crazy. Like every time it's like, this is crazy. This is nuts. This is wild.
Yeah.
But this stuff's happening. Once you connect people to that deep source love frequency, and they just get out of their own way, the body just starts to recalibrate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's really important, is the body is designed to heal. The body's designed to be amazing. It's not designed to be unhealthy. But we hand our power over so much to outside sources instead of taking responsibility for ourselves. And when we get pain in our body, we don't realize that the pain's trying to communicate with us and say, listen, you need to look at this, you need to look at that. We're just like, oh my God, I've got some pain. I better go and get some pills. I better see the doctor. Instead of thinking, right, let me just dive into this for a moment, and then when you dive into it, you start to communicate with your body will communicate back, and it will let you know why it's in pain. And then it will show you the way forwards. But we've just never been taught this stuff.
Yeah.
When you are taught this stuff, it's just so liberating.
Mm-hmm.
You just get back your sovereignty, because you know that you can just stay healthy all the time.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing again. So like, what I'm saying, I salute you and honor you for the work you've been doing for a long time, but this stuff is becoming more mainstream, right? There's a lot of people who are owning their truth, who are getting healed. I mean, even people like, Dr. Joe Dispenza, who got healed, and he's just sharing his story, and so many people, becoming beacons of light. And it's like a rising tide raises all the ships. So somebody like yourself that's been kind of fighting and just been on the front lines for this stuff for years, and now it's becoming normal. It's catching on. There's like, at some point, the work you're doing, the work I'm doing, podcasting and this kind of stuff, talking about this, it was kind of like groundbreaking and fringe, but now you're training people to do the same thing, and you're calling everybody up higher, man. So it's so beautiful to see people finally getting it.
Yeah, I mean, like we've trained thousands of people now in like 65 plus countries for all different languages, China to South America, everywhere in between. And people come to our training all different ages. We've got young boys, girls, like say 8, 9 years old. We've got older men and women, like say 95, 96 years old, and everyone in between. And everybody that comes can do this stuff. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, a lot of people try and dress quantum healing up and distance healing and quantum entanglement, all this stuff, and make it like complicated.
Yeah.
Actually, when you break it down, it's really easy. And so we've got this kind of like way of bringing people through a training program that they can just do it at the end, and everybody can go out into the world. They can heal people or facilitate the healing of people hands-on. They can facilitate the healing of people at distance. So it just opens up their world, and then it gives them sovereignty and freedom too, because they can even start a business from the comfort of their own home, working with clients every day in different parts of the world. They don't even have to leave their own home. They can help humanity, help the ascension process, and get paid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
And there's all these beautiful healings just taking place left, right, and center in every country. And each time someone upgrades their consciousness, that naturally ripples through their family too. So there's just this wave that's just like constantly growing, like a tsunami out at sea. It gets stronger and stronger, and then just tears through the lands. But this is just tearing through the lands in a positive way, and helping raise the vibration of the planet.
Yeah, it's amazing. How did this start for you? Like, what was like when did this become a reality? When let's talk about the origin story.
Yeah, so like like I had a very different life before. You know, I was a criminal. I was out there doing like criminal stuff, like smuggling drugs and doing bank fraud and doing lots of things that at the time I was young and I loved it. And I actually had no plans on changing it because I didn't really care. I was just earning money. And that's all I really wanted back then, just money and to buy all those nice like material things that you think are going to make you happy, but never do. And so I was out doing that like since I was a teenager. And then I think it was like 2004, 2005. I was in a car crash with my ex-wife and children. We were traveling from Patron to Bucharest airport in Romania really early one morning. I was asleep in a taxi. Mrs. and kids are in the back of the car. And the taxi ran three ladies over. I didn't know what had happened because I was asleep. I just woke up. The taxi's swaying from side to side. There's glass, there's wind. And I remember thinking to myself, man, we're in a bad accident. We're either going to hit the oncoming traffic or the car's going to flip. And then all of a sudden we came to a stop and there was no other cars on the road. And I looked at the taxi driver. He looked petrified. Our daughter, Alea, she was underneath the driver's seat. Laura had Josh, our son, in her arms, and both their mouths are full of glass. There was a hole in the windscreen, and there was blood dripping down my face. And I thought, this is weird, like where's the blood coming from? I'm not bleeding. So I've got out of the car. I've looked about 30 meters up the road, and there were two ladies on the side of the road. One of them had her ankles cut clean off, and the third one was physically okay. I looked about another 100 meters ish up the road, and there was what looked like a dead body. And what had happened is the first lady got hit. She came through the windscreen, smacked me in the face whilst I was asleep, got flipped over the car and died. Second one had her ankles cut off. Third one was physically okay. So I've checked on Mrs. and kids. And then I've walked past the lady with her ankles off. Like the other lady was screaming. A guy had come out from a nearby factory. And I thought, what can I do? Like, like she's just, she was just there. I was fixated on what looked like a dead body. And I've got closer and closer to this, what looked like a dead body, realized it was a dead body. And I see this lady's soul hovering above her body. Never ever had this kind of experience. I didn't believe in anything. Yeah, I thought it was all rubbish, man. And then so I'm looking at this like transparent energy, and I'm kind of shaking my head. Like part of me wanted to see it, and part of me didn't want to see it. And so I'll get closer and closer, and this energy, this soul, just like fizzles off into the ether. And by that time, I'm looking down over the lady's head. Her legs are wrapped over her body. Her legs are wrapped up over her head. She's completely smashed. And it was like someone had taken an old car to the scrap heap. Like whatever was inside the body, it just had no love for it anymore. No, it didn't need it anymore. It was gone. And this mess was just on the floor. And I remember looking up, just saying, thank you. And I don't smoke cigarettes and I don't drink whiskey, but I felt like I wanted a whiskey and a cigarette. It felt like a momentous occasion to like celebrate. It was like the universe smacking me around the face with a baseball bat and saying, Jerry, you need to wake up, man. There's so much more to these physical bodies, but energy and continuous moment with space. So this is what woke me up and started my journey. And then over the next like 16-ish years, 12 years, from sort of 2004 to 2016, I went on this mad roller coaster. I ended up moving to New Zealand. I had a really interesting experience with Yeshua in a pyramid, in a copper pyramid, where he took me into the Last Supper. I got taken up in a little space pod that landed in the garden through a portal to Alpha Centauri, met my Lyran family, and they downloaded all these codes into me. And it was these codes that became Star Magic. When I came back from that trip to Alpha Centauri, nothing happened in my life for 2 years. We just moved to New Zealand. We set up a mixed martial arts gym, health and fitness center. So the business was going really well. The kids went into school over there. And then one day I woke up and I was like, we got to go back to England. And the missus and kids like, no way. We love it here. And I was like, we got to go. I was like, I didn't know why we had to go. I just knew we had to go. Anyway, after sort of persuading them to come back to England, everything went into overdrive. I started meeting angels and fairies, and I was told to write a book called Into the Light. I wrote it, and then I ended up in these ancient mystery schools for 9 months, and I was being taught how to use the codes that I got on Alpha Centauri. So I realized that these codes were kind of Lyran codes that had come all the way back from galactic origins, and they'd come through Egypt, and I was back in Egypt in this mystery school, remembering how to use them. So I went every day for 2 hours for 9 months, sat in these mystery school classrooms with my son, Josh, at like 5 a.m. And then people just started coming into my life that needed healing. And I was like, let me just see if this stuff works. And it was working. I thought, let me go to a mind, body, spirit festival. So I went to a Mind Body Spirit Festival. I took my book into the light, gave a little talk on it, and I just had an Excel spreadsheet. And I said, listen, put your name down. I'm going to give away 3 free healings at the end of the weekend. About 70 odd people put their name down. I phoned them all Monday morning and said that they'd won just so I could practice. So I had 70 people to practice on, practiced on them all for the next couple of weeks, got some really good results. Phoned them all back up and said, listen, can I come to your house on my video camera and get a testimonial? So I ended up traveling all over England, getting these testimonials, and then set the website up. And then that was 2016. Then this blue being that took me in the spaceship in New Zealand, his name's Derekwai, he came to see me again. I was meditating on a hill. The whole town disappeared, and I saw the Christ consciousness grid and all of these kind of like dots. And I said, what are these? He goes, they're healing centers. You've got to build them. I said, well, if I build them, who's going to work in them? He said, you got to train people. So anyway, I ran home, I designed this training program, put it online for the following February, which was 2017, and all these people turned up. And I remember just stood at the front of the classroom on the first day and saying, I don't know why you guys are here. Like, this is just nuts. You know, I was kind of like blown away. They'd come from all over the world, and we did this first training program. It went amazing. And we've trained just thousands of people since. We set up a level 2, a level 3 training, which is like Stargate work, planetary grid work, and then teaching people how to take people on cosmic journeys through these kind of like high frequency guided meditations we do. So we've now got these 3 levels of training, then we've got Jedi training. So we take people through this process, and the aim is to, you know, have these beautiful souls facilitating healing in our healing centers. And we're in the process at the moment of building our first center in Romania, in Transylvania. So like everything these blue beings have told me, these Lyrians, is coming true. At the time, I was like, man, this sounds like a great idea, but I haven't got a clue how it's going to work, but I'll just run with it anyway. And I started telling everybody 7 years ago, we're going to be building these healing centers. And everyone thought I was nuts. And now we've bought land in different countries, and it's just actually happening. You know, it's just been a sort of like a natural progression. I've just been following my heart and just following the guidance and just going with the flow.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. You answered like so many questions there. Like you know, I this the key in on like once you get the download and then trusting it, because it's like this is kind of weird, you know, these kind of modalities, if you will, that's telling me if I do this, then this will happen. And then you move into the place where you're kind of like operating in childlike faith, if you will, and say, I'm going to trust it, and I'm going to try. What happens when I put my hands here and move in this kind of direction? And then you see the person respond, and they're, you know, you're moving energy, and it's like, wow. And then you learn that you can trust that inner voice or that intuition that we've called it, that will take you deeper. Because if you can trust that, then you can trust more. And so going back and forth to being taught, I'm always interested in that journey of how people have tapped into it. And you kind of explained, you know, how it was for you and being initiated into what I believe is kind of like the universal mystery school, right? We're all being taught. We're all here to be taught and to teach. And just amazing how you was able to share that and do it. And it's evolved into what it is today, just showing you that whatever, you know, they are that's speaking to you, and obviously it's more than one. They weren't lying, you know. They're giving us these ancient technologies that something or someone is trying to suppress.
Absolutely. You know, and the thing is, like this thing about trust is so important
Mm-hmm.
because like as humans, like it's quite difficult for most of us to trust because we've all been through some kind of traumas on some
Yeah.
level, whether it's from this lifetime or a past life or a future life, a galactic reality. There's some stuff embedded in us, and there's these programs running on some level. So to actually trust at the start is quite difficult. And I always find it's like a pendulum, you know, like you want to be here locked into the 0 point because that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
But the pendulum swings. You might move into a lack of trust, or you might be right in this frequency of love, and you're like, let me just sort of step out for a little bit. Let me go and try this bit of shitty food, or let me just go and try this over here. And so you kind of, the pendulum swings, and you're like, nah, I don't like it over here. It was much better here. But you swing quite wide for a little while, you know, and then it sort of gets less and less and less and less and less. And then you get into the 0 point, and then you're there for ages, and then you might just sort of step outside and that don't like it, coming back here. So it's kind of like this process. For me, it took quite a few years to get this stuff sorted, like over 10 years, because I mean, I used to make such good money and easy money doing all this other stuff, I had mates phoning me up saying, Jerry, why don't you try and do this? And for a few years, I was like, yeah, you know what? It's a quick 20 grand or a quick 30 grand. So I'd go and do this job and get my money. And so I was swinging backwards and forwards, going on this spiritual journey. And then what actually happened is I met this lady who worked for Scotland Yard. She had a past life regression business, and she sort of like guided me for a few years. And I was stealing all this money from banks, and I used to go to her and say, listen, you know, what can I do with this money to help humanity? And so we started sending this money to Africa, and we were building water pipelines and schools and all this infrastructure. And the letters used to come back, and it was like, oh my God, you helped us with this and that. And it was really emotional. And it was the first time that I'd ever given stuff away and actually found that it was really exhilarating and rewarding and an amazing process. So this started to change me too, like giving away and realizing that, I was kind of integrating these two worlds, like this stuff that I was doing before and this stuff that I was kind of getting into, and it sort of fused together. And that blending and that fusion really helped sort of catapult me forward into a place where I really wanted to kind of give back to humanity. And then that's when everything started changing internally within me. And I started to have like a whole different frequency, because it wasn't always about me and my
Yeah.
ego and what I could get for myself. It
Yeah.
was about what could I do for other people. And that was huge, massive.
For sure, for sure. It's we grow up without and with lack, and especially coming from that lifestyle, it's like, there's a scarcity mentality with it, and you're always taking from others, and then you have to like undo this program that you've been taught, and then it's like the scarcity mentality that there's not enough abundance to go around, and how much of a lie that is for you to find out that you can't really give away healing and abundance and knowledge and information quick enough, because it comes right back to you. Like the more you give, the more you receive. And the scriptures are true. And, those are universal laws that you become a good conduit for such creativity, finances, whatever. So to apply those universal principles to every area of your life, it takes some time for some of us that come from a different lifestyle, or come from the streets, or come from where everybody's out to get you kind of thing, to move into this, from paranoia into pronoia, to know that, hey, the universe is actually here to help me. The angels are here to help me. People want to serve me. People want to give. I'm not like manipulating. I'm just becoming a good vessel, and you can trust me, versus having to manipulate and lie, from the street life, if you will, and hurt people. But now you're using the same creativity, but for good. Like, how can we help people, versus like waking up? It's really a rewiring of, I would say, the mind, but the DNA for sure.
Absolutely. And I think it's like this point about like rewiring and what you can do. Like it's like in Star Wars, like they got the Force.
Yeah,
You can use the Force for good, you can use the Force for evil. The
exactly.
Force isn't any different. It's just energy.
Yeah,
How you play with that energy and how you move that energy literally just creates your reality and dictates your life. And
yeah,
so we have to become those kind of Jedis. And like for me, I think like one of the things we kind of drill into people in our training is like the darkness isn't bad. The darkness is just the darkness.
yeah,
And you don't really want to play around in the light, and you don't really want to play around in the darkness. You've got to alchemize the two and
for
balance
sure.
the two, because that's when you're truly powerful. If you run into the light, you're leaving half of you behind. If you run into the darkness, you're leaving half of you behind. You can be powerful in both, but you can be supersonic when you've
Yeah,
alchemized both elements.
yeah.
And that's like the key, the mastery.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard one. Most people don't start there by any means, because, they have an idea of what light and darkness is, and most of us, darkness means evil, darkness means bad, but that's not the case. There's laws that govern both, and they have to exist. It's the yin and yang, and they really complement each other. And I think our lives are examples of that, especially people who start out in the darkness and then you overcome, and then you're like, hold on, like now I'm very thankful that I went through those things and I learned such amazing principles that only the darkness could teach me, if you will. So we talk about beings, right? We talk about, angels and these beautiful galactic helpers that are here to help, and they're ascended. Their energies are immersive and beautiful, and we have seen them in bodily form. I'm sure you can say you've seen them in spirit form. You've seen them in the dreams. You've seen them all over the place, right? Their true forms, if you will, speaking through the television, speaking through everything, your consciousness, if you will. Have you experienced similar things, but with what people would call the demonic or the lower realm entities showing up to maybe threaten you or challenge you, if you will, that show up in bodily form or through the television, through consciousness, and trying to threaten you and trying to scare you away from this work? Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, all of it and so much more, like it's been a ride, man. Like I remember like literally like everyone was talking about like the end of the Mayan calendar 2012 like years ago, and I remember when me and my friends like we started getting into this stuff like literally after the car crash. And my friend, he phoned me one day. He goes, "Listen, there's a guy giving a talk on 2012 on the end of the Mayan calendar." And we were living in London, and this talk was in a place called Basingstoke, which was like 30 minutes outside of London. Anyway, me and my two pals, we go down there, and I'm sat in this like front room in someone's house, and this guy's giving a talk. And we were all like 26, 27, something like that. And all these people are a lot older. And this guy's giving a talk. And he's talking about something I can't remember, but I asked him a question and it was kind of like a little bit kind of like in his face and contradictory. But I was curious, like I was young and I wanted to know this stuff. Anyway, he stopped and he looked at me and his face just disappeared. And I see this green lizard.
Hmm.
And I'm looking at him like on the outside, I'm trying to keep cool as a cucumber. On the inside, I'm like, what the heck is this, man? This is nuts. And he held my stare for ages and I could feel this weird energy. And then after about 4, 5, 6 seconds, his face just came back. And then he carried on talking. That night when I went home, he was trying to psychically attack me and my pals and stuff. And I ended up meeting my first spirit guy that was called James. This old man came into my space when I was in the shower and he was explaining to me what had happened, that I'd triggered this other entity that was inside this man and he was coming for us. So anyway, I kind of went through that process and all the way through. Even we've just been on a grid work mission through Ethiopia and Easter Island and all around the world, laying these crystal grids, these new dragon grids for the seventh dimensional architecture. I was in Ethiopia, and we were at the monastery where the Ark of the Covenant is. And you got the Ark of the Covenant monastery, which houses the Ark of the Covenant, and you got this other kind of newer monastery next door. And I was with my girlfriend and Cherie, who's our videographer. And the women aren't allowed in these monasteries. Anyway, this priest just comes out from nowhere and he just takes my arm and he leads me towards the monastery. So I went with it. He goes up to some fella, gets a key, opens the monastery and just takes me in. He takes me to the front of the monastery and he's staring at me and this big smile comes across his face. And his higher self like comes out of his physical body, massive like diamond and gold being, and he hands me this crystal key. He says, "You're going to need this." Anyway, so I take the crystal key. He comes back into his body, he lets me out of the monastery, and I go. And then we'd been to the Vatican a couple of weeks before on this same kind of trip. And I started getting the downloads then that this key was to kind of dismantle this kind of pedophilia grid network that was underneath the Vatican, which we're going to do next week. We've not done it yet because we needed a few of us to get together to do it because of the nature of the mission. So anyway, once I got this key, the whole trip turned because I had this key to unlock so much of the negativity. All of our suitcases went missing. Every border security, like all the people that we met on our journeys were rude to us. I had a guy in the petrol station that told me he was going to bury me on the island when we're in Hawaii. Like all this, like the entities inside everybody that we met all came to the surface because they'd been triggered by these higher dimensional, low frequency beings.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole trip just went nuts. So you get like things like that happen. I remember a few years ago, like I was walking the dog through the park. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And I look up in the tree and I see Satan just sat there in the tree. And anyway, I don't think too much of it. I sort of keep my awareness over him and I go and get in the car. When I get in the car, I feel my skull being crushed. And I'm like, I'm breathing, and he's talking to me, saying, Jerry, come back to the dark side. Because years before, when I first started this journey, I had to break loads of like contracts with Lucifer and
Yeah.
different beings that I'd been in from multiple past lives. So he was there trying to get me to come back to the dark side to work for them. And he was crushing my skull. And it literally felt like my skull was a grape and it was about to get compressed in the
Mm.
car. And I just breathed and just rolled it out and fought against it for about 40 minutes. And after about 40 minutes, he couldn't sustain the energy anymore. So he went. But I just drove off. But like loads of things like this have happened,
Yeah.
you know? Like we've got our tribe, Star Magic. We've got thousands of people in our tribe. And every now and again, you'll get beings that will come in and play around with people in the tribe and get them to move away from the tribe. They'll get
Mm-hmm.
them to say, well, Jerry's this or Jerry's that, or they'll bring up some kind of negative stuff. And then people start to isolate themselves. So like isolation and separation
Yeah.
is the aim of the game because they can control people then. So
Mm-hmm.
like in all different ways, they try isolation and separation. They try it within the tribe, they try it with me, with family, all sorts of different things. My children, like I remember my daughter, I was in Turkey working one day, and I'm working on this client in this healing center, and I see fire coming in through my shoulders. I stop it at my elbows, turn around, and there's a Baphomet. So I get this being out of my space. I go to the gym that evening, and I'm in the sauna, sat on my own. I look out the little glass window, and there's a reptilian, there's a being with a Tyrannosaurus Rex head, and this other weird green looking being that's hard to describe, and they're just staring at me. And anyway, I get out of the sauna. I go and sort of like lie down in this room and just sort of like lay on this kind of like sort of bed with a towel by the pool. And I'm sort of like drifting and I'm getting these messages about my birth and stuff. And then because I was adopted and fostered as a kid. So when I came out the sauna and stuff, I phoned up my real mum because I'd found her when I was like 24 years old. And I said, what happened when I was born? And she told me that when I was born, she didn't tell her parents, and she went to this kind of like home for women that are out of wedlock. And when she was about to give birth, these men in black masks walked into the room. A lady in a black mask. They gave her no medication, cut her vagina, ripped me out, stuck me on like this metal kind of like table, and left me crying for hours. Left her bleeding for hours, and then came back and stitched her up with no medication. And that was the last time I saw her. So it was like a really traumatic entry.
Yeah.
And so she was explaining this stuff to me, and she was explaining to me that the DNA kind of that I had in my body, it was like German and all these different kind of DNA strands. So I started getting this information, and these beings knew that I was getting this information, so they were kind of like on me, trying to like scare me away. The next day, I'm looking around this Ottoman temple with this guide in Turkey, and my daughter phones me. She said she's crying her eyes out. She's at the horse riding stables. She's been dragged off her horse by a couple of reptilians, and they're eating her womb. And so I've gone in and I've got them off her, and she ended up getting leaving the stables and going home. 2 days later, I fly back from Turkey, and a being comes into my son's bedroom and starts choking him and strangling him, and he couldn't get him off. And then he remembered what I taught him, just be love. So we went into his heart, opened his heart, and then the being had no power. So there's so many different kind of circumstances like this that have happened over the years in different situations. But the more light you bring to the
Yeah.
party, the more it elevates the darkness. And it's just a game, and if you don't enjoy playing the game, then the game's going to smash you and hammer you. So you've got to kind of just kick back and be like, okay, this is cool. I'm just going to play it. And then when you start to play it, you start to navigate it more fluidly and efficiently. And eventually these beings kind of stop bothering you so much because you're too elevated to try and drag back into the marsh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like a lot of times they kind of serve as gatekeepers. That's one thing you find is like after these tests or these battles, you find out that there's something that you are elevated into in the next level in the light, or no, you meet a new ally, or you step into another level that is with some type of temptation or some type of threat, if you will, that tells you, threatens you to be quiet or whatever the case is. I mean, it comes in so many different forms to be like, okay, this is too much. Like, I'm finding out too much. I just need to stop. And they threatened me, told me they were going to kill me if I keep talking, kind of thing. And it's like, hold on, I signed up for this. I'm here for it, and I'm not alone. I'm not alone. And, you find out that you know what I'm saying, what else is there? This is what we do. So you can't throw in the towel, and it is hard. It does get hard and scary. So it's awesome that you're sharing some of these more vulnerable experiences that we need to talk about, because for so long the healer, the leader, the pastor or whatever has been looked at upon this pedestal, and you can't talk about your struggles. You can't talk about what it's like to go through these attacks or to question your sanity when you got these beings talking to you through other people that nobody else can see but you. Everybody's hearing one thing, but you're seeing and hearing something totally different. And there's a lot of people experiencing that right now, and it can drive you mad. It brings forth, insanity and madness. But to hold on to the truth, to hold on to love, and you'll get through it. Love always overcomes. Love always triumphs this darkness. And it's I don't think you ever graduate from it. I say you can get better of how quickly you lean into forgiveness and grace and peace and all of that in the midst. And I feel like these attacks happen, I wouldn't say maybe less, but they don't sit in as long. It doesn't take you 6 months to fight. You can fight them a lot quicker. I've found out.
I think as well, we've got to be grateful for these beings,
Mm-hmm.
because if they weren't there, we wouldn't up level and upskill and take, remember some of the skill sets that we remember, like how to deal with these beings, and then how to train other people to deal with these beings.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, a massive percentage of the human population suffers from this stuff. They just
For
don't
sure.
even realize, because it's so subtle.
Yeah.
They think the thoughts in their head are their own. They think that the feelings in their body are their own. And a lot of the time it's interdimensional entities playing around with them, and it helps them or encourages them to make certain decisions which are detrimental to their own spiritual growth, their own human evolution. So one thing we do in our training is we spend the whole day on what we call shadow parasites. And these interdimensional entities, they work the same way as normal parasites. So like there's this parasite in the jungle that will go into a caterpillar, and it will take over the caterpillar's consciousness and make the caterpillar climb to the top of the tallest tree. When the caterpillar gets up there, the caterpillar explodes, and all the juices go over like other leaves and stuff, and the other caterpillars eat it. Then the parasite goes into all of those, and they all climb to the top of the tallest tree and explode. You get them in fishes. They eat the fish's tongue, take over the fish's brain, all different things. And these shadow parasites, they work through humans in the same way. They're invisible to most people, but they take over human consciousness. Most people that are in mental asylums, for example, they're experiencing parasites, or they've just been opened up to the universal or quantum field, and they just are telling the doctors this, and doctors think they're nuts. They put them on medication. But these interdimensional entities are rife. And what's happened over the last couple of years, a lot of the main beings that have been kind of controlling Earth, they've been taken off planet. And so you've got a lot of these interdimensional entities that are running havoc, and they're all fighting for the next leadership role. So they're all going nuts, trying to create as much chaos and mayhem as possible. So you've got them all just running around causing havoc. Before, there was law and order in the dark side, but now they're just going crazy. And so actually right now on planet Earth, you were saying earlier, like it's kind of affecting a lot of people at the moment. And that's why, because no one is taking control over them. They're just doing their own thing. It's like a load of naughty little kids that have been taught all of these skills for millions and billions of years, and they just want to go out and just be nightmares, to the human race.
Yeah, we're being taught. We're being taught there, and there's a new respect, there's a new honor that comes forth, like you said, even for the dark side, because this energy has to go somewhere, right? You can't destroy energy; it has to go somewhere. And so sometimes some of these darker beings come to cater that energy where it's supposed to go, and that's what they live off of, and they serve to be the polarity to that side of the force, if you will. And even though it may be scary or traumatic, or you make it through, it comes to serve you. They're all here to serve you and to cater to this experience. And so once you know that everything's working out for your good, there's like this peace that is imparted to you that just when we tell people, just hold on, and just hold on, like you signed up, like you bought the ticket. It's ride to ride, baby. You're here for it. You're strong. There's impartation that comes with it, and it buffets you, and it shows you in an area of your life that you may have not had trust to the Creator. Of some places that you're slacking, and in the end, you're better for it. I'll say that. Let me ask you this. I want to go here with you, man, because just in my own study and the ancient texts and things like that, and experiences. But where do the dragon beings come into play for you? I know they show up as healers and stuff like that. Like, are they still here assisting? Are they etheric? Are they physical in the galaxy somewhere? Like, what? Like, how does this stuff operate for you?
Yeah, like if you go back billions of years, like a lot of the dragon races were very, very dark, very, very negative. And the dragon species have been on their own journey. Like if you look at the human race now, we're going through this ascension process and we're upgrading our consciousness and trying to remember how to activate our DNA and bring back online all of those multidimensional faculties so we can be our kind of superhuman selves, traveling multidimensionally, using telepathy, healing at distance, phasing out of reality field here and phasing back into reality over here. All of these abilities, telekinesis, they're all things that we've always done, but we've forgotten because our gene code has been down-regulated through certain processes. So we're remembering all of this stuff. And we're bringing ourselves back online. The dragons did that billions of years ago. They went very dark. They went very negative. And they went through their own healing process over a long period of time in the galaxy. And there are still some factions of dragons that are not so positive. But a lot of the dragons out there are working with humanity. A lot of the dragon races were some of the original builder races that helped construct planet Earth, with Merlin and some of these other beings helping create the records, the Akashic records, what some people call them, the living libraries, which Earth is a living library. And the dragons helped create a lot of the kind of the ley lines, the dragon lines, the architecture, kind of Mother Earth's planetary nervous system that the energy travels through. So you got loads of grid systems over planet Earth. And the reason that I went on this grid mission recently is because I was contacted by these beings which call themselves the cosmic grandfathers. They're like these kind of 70-foot old ancient beings that look like kind of old men, but still full of vitality and energy. They shapeshift into dragons. They're some of the original like Dragon Queen and Dragon King families. And they came to me literally a couple of months back, and they said, you need to go and build these grids. So they gave me the 15 locations. I bought a map of the world and put the 15 locations on the map and drew the lines together, and it was a perfect dragon's wing. I was like, no way. So anyway, they sent me on this mission to build these grids because it's the 7th dimensional grids to hold the new divine mother frequency. So the dragons are working with us a lot at the moment. They're showing up everywhere. I mean, there's physical dragons out in the universe. Yeah. There's also like multi-dimensional dragons. These dragons can phase from one reality to another. They could be more physical in 5D, and they could phase into a more energetic form if they go 6, 7, 8, 9. Depending on kind of where they're going to travel, what planetary system they're on. But when they come down into Earth, they sometimes come into human bodies. They sometimes come as just frequency, as vibration. Sometimes they'll come right up into your space. Sometimes they'll communicate from afar. But even if they communicate from afar, it's like they're right next to you because you can hear them very clearly telepathically. And so the dragons are working to help us reconstruct the grids to hold the higher dimensional energies so we can bring ourselves back online. Now, when I went and built this dragon wing grid, I didn't know this at the time. It wasn't until I think we were in Easter Island. It was like the last like 3 crystals that we had to lay down. So each place we went to, we put down a unakite egg and a 2-pointed clear quartz crystal, and the 2 of them had to work together. So when we were in Easter Island, I got the download that this dragon's wing was actually a key. As well as being a set of grids that was going to run new energy through the planet, it was also a key to start the solar clock. So people talk about solar flares. They're talking about, okay, you get these solar flares that hit in the planet, they're going to upgrade humanity's DNA. We might have had little waves of energy coming from other celestial beings, from the crystal cathedrals in Earth, the crystal cities, from off planet, but these solar flares haven't hit us yet. This dragon's wing we're going to be activating it in the next few weeks, and it's going to activate the solar clock. Now, the solar clock doesn't tick forwards or backwards. It's like woven through the fabric of space-time. And what it does, it winds and compresses. And as it compresses energy. And when it gets to a certain convergence point, boom, it explodes. And that's what creates the solar flare or the solar flash. And then that's when there's going to be a massive wave of electromagnetic energy that's going to upgrade the whole of humanity's DNA. I was asking how long is it going to take for that to happen? And they were like, we don't really know. It could take 3 years, it could take 8 years, but it's going to happen. And once we switch this on, that tightening of and compression of energy is going to start, and it's going to draw frequency from different celestial beings, different galaxies. And yeah, it's going to be a huge awakening of humanity. And that's when we're going to start to really come back online. And it's a beautiful, and to have that kind of opportunity to build these grids, it was amazing. You know, I've been doing grid work for a while. It just sort of happened one day. I had a dream and had to go to Ireland and went through this crazy process. And then since then, I've been doing grid work when I've been kind of told to go and do it. But this was the best one that I've been involved in. You know, it was massive, beautiful.
Wow.
So these dragons, they're really supporting humanity at the moment in a massive, massive way.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got dragons that we work with in our healing. Like like say, for example, someone comes to us and they say, oh, Jerry, I've got cancer, or I've got an eyesight issue, or whatever it is. We'll connect with them, whether they're in Australia or America, and we'll bring up their hologram and we'll entangle the hologram with the human being. And then through the hologram, we'll do the work. And what we do to the hologram happens to them physically in real time, instantly. Now, when we get someone's hologram, we'll take their hologram to different quantum healing spaces around the planet. And there's some like healing chambers that the dragons work in, and you take someone's hologram and lay them down in a healing pool or some kind of like medical bed on a higher dimensional level. The dragons come in, people's bones are fixing, people's spines are straightening, tumors are being taken out of brains. It's happening, boom, just like that. So these dragons are amazing healers, amazing grid workers. You know, they help you in so many ways, man. So many ways. So grateful for them.
That's awesome. It's I think it needs to be, spoken about, just because, especially in the West, there's like this, idea that, dragons or serpents and all this kind of stuff, they equate it with, what a lot of religion has told her that it's evil. Like these, the serpent of the garden or the Satan or whatever, and they don't see them as different beings. And I, just to be honest with you, there was a lot of my ancient biblical Hebrew studies that shows that Yeshua was connected with the serpents as well, and in some way, I'm not going to go too much detail. Let's just say it's connected with them, and they're good. Like they show up to heal. And looking in like the Hebrew, like the seraphim or the fiery serpents, they showed up to bring forth healing when you even gazed upon them. If you was to look at them and see them by seeing them pass by, you'll be healed. Like inspirations comes back to you, vigor, all of these beautiful things. So again, thank you for going into detail about the dragons and the ancient serpents, because there's this crazy misconception that to demonize everything that we don't understand. I think that's what that conversation taps into, the dark side, and really just it taps into everything that you don't understand, that you automatically demonize it. And I think the scriptures and many of the ancient texts tell us, don't judge anything before its appointed time. Like everything deserves its, like, for you to do your own research and allow it to show you what it does, and versus just taking somebody's word for it, especially when it errs on the side of fear and demons and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, we're coming into the year of the snake next year, and like the year of the snake is the year of the Kundalini. So the Kundalini rising is also connected with the snake. And I think sometimes people get the two things mixed up. Like when we were in Ethiopia a few weeks ago, we went to this monastery, and the monastery was on a mountain. To get to this monastery, you had to rock climb. They had ropes up the side of the mountain. And I said to the fella, I said, just think, who was the first person that got to the top of this? And thought, I'm going to build a monastery up a mountain that no one can get to. And I thought, how did he get up there? And he said to me, well, when you get up to the monastery, Jerry, you're going to see all the pictures. A serpent brought him up here. So anyway, we kind of rock climbed up the side of this mountain, and outside the monastery there was a picture of this priest wrapped up in a massive snake. And when I kind of like fell into this, what I felt is that this priest had just reached a really high level of consciousness, and he activated his kundalini, he activated his multidimensional abilities, and he just levitated up the side of the mountain, landed on top, and thought, right, I'm going to build a monastery here. And then other priests, they worked out how to do the same, and they rose up there. So the snake, the kundalini, the serpent,
Wisdom.
that frequency is so powerful, just took him up the side of the mountain. And what was interesting when I went into this monastery as well, it was like 6,000 years old, and they had a 6,000-year-old version of the Bible. It was massive and amazing. And this priest, he was opening up and showing me, and he was showing me pictures of when Jesus left to go to Egypt, to go into the mystery schools. And we run tours of Egypt every year. I've been to like the house where Jesus stayed when he was a baby. But to see this, like the actual pictures depicted in these ancient books in Ethiopia of Jesus leaving to go on the trek with Mary and all the rest of it to go to Egypt, to go into these mystery schools, it was amazing. And the guy, I said to the guy, can I look at the book? Can I pick it up and turn the pages? And he actually let me pick it up. And the guy said, no one has ever picked that book up. So I picked it up and I held it, and the download that I got for the codes in this book, man, it was mind blowing. I've still not kind of deciphered all of them. They're kind of like in a little kind of multi-dimensional bag, and I need to go in and work them out over the next weeks. But an absolutely fascinating experience.
Yeah, man, I remember experiencing that for the first time. I actually interviewed an author on here that he was promoting his book, and he said, listen, buy the book, even if you're not going to read it, just buy it, because there's a transference of energy and you will receive downloads and an impartation when you buy the book. Me being the skeptic that I am, and probably for good reason, I come from a place of people, tricking you a lot and things like that, and trying to find gullible people. So I was like, oh, that's a good ploy. You ain't got to read it, just buy it, And so I just kind of laughed at it or whatever until I put a book out. And then I put a book out, and then some of my people are hitting me up like, brother, I just got it out the mailbox and I can feel the energy on your book, man. I can feel it. I can't wait to read it. I just like haven't even read it yet, and I can feel it. And like different people are emailing me this. And then a couple years after that, started reading a book that I really, really liked. It was really speaking to me. And I read just maybe 2 chapters, and I couldn't wait to read more. But I slept with it by my bedside because I would just read it laying in bed. And I didn't touch it for like 3 months. But after I was tapping into that, I had these pretty profound encounters, and all of these downloads were coming to me. I mean, it was automatic writing that the downloads would come so fast that I couldn't type them out quick enough for hours. And it was a beautiful presence. It was just amazing. A couple months later, I reach over and pick the book back up and start reading it again. And everything that I was writing, all the downloads that the Spirit was giving me, I was reading it word for word in the following chapters of that book. So talking about just having the book there and honoring it, and the expectation and knowing that there's energy tied to it, that is sacred. And so it's a big deal, and it's real. I love learning. Usually we have to eat our words. I do. I'll say something like, oh, that's not how you do it. And you find out it's really how simple it is, or whatever the case is, or say energy doesn't operate that way. And then it hits you and you're like, oh, it kind of does, kind of thing. So learning hands-on is one of the ways that, God works with me and teaches me.
It's amazing, brother. Yeah, I remember we did a training in Sedona a few years ago, and I wrote a book called Healing with Light Frequencies, and it was all about the healing techniques in star magic. And a guy came to the training, and at the end of the first day, he was like, Jerry, this isn't for me. He came from like a Pentecostal church, but he'd seen people in the Pentecostal churches, doing those kind of like healing techniques where they shake and they bend and they twist and they scream. And he came to our thing and he saw me doing it. And he said it was like a sort of a Pentecostal church, like mixed with some kind of sci-fi convention, because I was bringing all of this extraterrestrial technology. And he said, I'm not sure whether this is for me, bro. He said, I might have to go home. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, go back to your room tonight, take my book, just put it under your pillow, and then come in tomorrow. And if you still feel like going home, go home. Anyway, he came back in the next morning and he'd obviously uploaded stuff through the book and everything made sense to him. And he flew through the rest of the training and he became one of our best facilitators.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's magic in energy, and it just transfers instantly. Like there's no time, there's no space, no distance, no measurement. It's just now.
Yeah.
If you open yourself up to it.
Yeah, that's one thing, I mean, there's not enough time for you to learn all of this stuff. It has to be imparted to you, and then you kind of file it where it's supposed to go, whenever you're supposed to understand it. I would say that's probably a big part of the audience you're talking to right now is like those who come from the Pentecostal background, because that's where I come from, that background. But to see the similarities is really the healing that comes forth, because, in so many different religions, you're taught that it's the only way. Jesus is the only way. This is the only. And there's this corner of the market until you start really, deciphering the ancient text and say, hey, he said, I am of the way. He didn't say I'm the only way. I am of the way, the truth, and the life. And those words were echoed, thousands of years before Jesus, echoed them in his generations. And we're echoing that way in our generation. And so I think you're talking to a lot of those people. And this is a good segue, because I wanted to ask you about light language, because from the Pentecostal background, we talk about speaking in tongues, this gift of prophecy and speaking in tongues. And it very much mirrors, light language. I was against it at first, because I was against everything that wasn't Christian, until you feel the energy and say, that's the same exact thing that we're doing in church, that these people are doing. And we're getting like results, they're getting results when they do. I can feel it like through the telephone or through somebody doing a live Reiki session in the hands, and it's beautiful. Can you talk a little bit about what, I believe it's the same thing, the speaking in tongues and the light language, and being able to kind of like bypass the analytical mind and speak directly from spirit?
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, bypassing the analytical mind, because the mind judges, the mind tries to work it out, the mind tries to understand things. And when you speak light language, if you're on the other end of it, or whether you're even speaking it to yourself, you've just got to kind of absorb it into your cells. And so if I'm speaking light language to you or an audience or whoever it is, and people are just very still, they're just very present, and they allow the light language to reverberate through their consciousness, to hit them on a cellular level, it starts to activate their DNA. It starts to wake up their body, and the body's like a musical instrument. So when you start playing different tones and different frequencies, the DNA responds to different musical tones. So on a cellular level, they're activating and things just start to happen. I remember I spoke light language for a couple of years, but then we were doing like one of our deep in space retreats where we do plant medicine, and we were doing it in Holland. And there was I think it was a French or a Belgian guy called Philippe, and I was just sat down, and he comes hobbling over to the side. He was in so much pain. He said, "Can you help me?" I got up and I stepped into his field. As soon as I stepped into his field, my mouth opened in a way that I have no idea how it happened. My throat went like that, and these tones started coming out of me. And it lasted for maybe 10 minutes. I didn't even take one breath. Like it all happened in one breath for about 10 minutes. It was like I switched out, like in this frequency, this multi-dimensional, angelic, galactic, I don't know what it was, frequency came through, but his whole body just started recalibrating. His spine was like tweaking, his body was straightening, the pain was disappearing, he was crying, I was crying, I couldn't stop it. At one time I tried to stop it. I was like, man, this is intense, but I just could not get out of the space until it was over, until the transmission had come through. And he was just like in, I don't know, just completely elevated in an amazing space. And it was healing for me too. As the frequencies were coming through me, my own body was readjusting as his body was readjusting. It was beautiful. And like we do these things called personal light code activations. So, we do them on Zoom, and we'll take people through a light language transmission, and people just heal. Like once you just allow the frequency to come into your body, it does stuff that you just can't get done logically. You can't even energy healing. Like energy healing bypasses a lot of logic, but the musical tones, they literally just cut through so much. It's like plant medicine. You can drink ayahuasca for one night and you'll get through 10 years of healing.
Yeah.
You speak a light language transmission to someone for 5 or 6 minutes, you'll get through months, years of healing.
Yeah.
It just cuts straight through to the core and it just disrupts and things just transmute, alchemize, integrate, 0 point, and all of that shitty energy that's held on a cellular level just dismantles.
Yeah.
And sovereignty and freedom and healing kicks in.
Man.
Like I think it's the language of the soul.
Yeah.
And like when I speak it and it comes through me, I know where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it comes through my Lyran ancestors. Like I was part of a tribe called the Karanu tribe, which were kind of Lyran, like feline beings, like crystal white diamond lions and lionesses on Avion, the original Garden of Eden, going back billions of years. And so I've got a lot of like memories from there. And a lot of the light language that I speak is from that Karanu tribe. But sometimes we get other dialects come through, sometimes from the dragons, sometimes from the Arcturians, sometimes Syrian Lyran, Anuhazi languages, different dialects coming through. And they come depending on what the human being needs that's in front of you.
Yeah.
You don't really need to say, okay, let me just like see what they need. You don't even need to bring logic into it.
Yeah.
Just be in your heart, breathe, and just ask, okay,
Yeah.
what do they need? And then it just comes.
Yeah.
And then healing takes place. So it's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
And we have like, we do classes where we teach people to speak it and encourage people to speak it, because once a human being speaks light language, they can be in the shower in the morning, speak 5 minutes of light language, completely just amplify and elevate themselves into the most extraordinary space, and then go out into the day and they're just on a high frequency.
Yeah.
People can use it to heal themselves. Once you've got these tools, that's it.
Yeah, it's an amazing tool for sure. I like the fact that you share too, like when you're tapped in and the person in front of you is getting healed, they're getting an attunement, or they're receiving what they need. And this is the coolest part, especially coming from, the drug background, if you will, like there's a euphoria that is when these presents show up and work through you, that you're getting touched too. Like you can feel yourself getting an alignment, and you don't even have to know what it is. You just got to be open to wanting to be at perfect peace in every area in your life, and you can feel the adjustment, even though you're working on somebody else, as what I say, coming to you and through you. It blesses you for just being just this conduit, man, of energy. So it's very beautiful, peaceful, euphoric, better than any drug, for you just to be used by the creator and creators, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of guided meditations, and we do like meditation journeys where we'll take people into the jungle, and they'll go into a medicine ceremony room, and they'll drink ayahuasca in their meditation. Now, when you take people into that experience and you bring their brain waves and their heart rate into the right space, once they drink that medicine energetically, it activates the dimethyltryptamine, it activates different biochemicals in their system, and they have a full-blown ayahuasca experience. Like, we are the medicine. We're our own doctors. We can activate billions of chemicals through breath, through meditation, through sound.
Yeah.
And so these ancient skills, like if we could teach these to our children in school, this whole world would be a different space. The pharmaceutical industry would just be dismantled and fall apart. Everybody would realize how to take care of themselves. They'd know what foods to put in their body, how to exercise, how to speak light language, how to meditate, qigong, all of these very simple tools that cost absolutely nothing, and people can just be the high frequency supersonic beings that they came to planet Earth to be, re-engineering that angelic DNA. Wow. And stepping into their full superhuman potential.
Yeah. We're exciting times, man. And we have a great cloud of witnesses. We have a lot of amazing beings here that want us to win, and they are committed. And if people haven't met them yet, just ask and you will receive. They are here, and so beautiful to be tapped in and to acknowledge and talk to them and encounter them through each other. Your lineage and your DNA, that we get to step aside, even in a conversation like this or whatever, or one of your retreats and trainings where they're giving messages and they're teaching everyone through the human that has become the vessel. It's so beautiful how this stuff works.
Yeah, and like, am I really speaking to you right now? Like, is it Jerry and Derek having a
Right?
conversation, or is it one of your multidimensional
Yeah,
selves and one of mine from a different galaxy actually orchestrating this, or having some kind of subtle part of this conversation to
exactly.
help us get the messages out to humanity that people need to hear? Because like in situations like this, like you never know what you're going to say. The information just comes out. The questions are there, the answers are there, the conversation flows. But where does it really come from?
Hmm.
And I think when you sort of open yourself up to just being in your heart and not trying to think and not trying to like create this or say this, just allow it to flow,
Yeah,
then you're sharing messages that people that come and watch this tomorrow in
yeah,
3 weeks, whenever you stick this up on YouTube or whatever, the people that come across this are going to be drawn to it through the frequency, through the energy, and maybe our higher selves, our multidimensional aspects are communicating with theirs to get them to come and watch the video, to hear the messages. Like we're all working on such a super conscious level.
yeah.
And like we've just got to be grateful for every interaction because we're always learning. And it kind of comes back to what you were kind of touching upon a minute ago, about when I was talking about if I'm speaking light language to someone, I'm healing too. Well, if I'm talking to you and sharing something with you, it's something that I need to hear also,
Yeah.
and vice versa. And every time I'm working on a client, to facilitate healing, I guarantee that what I'm doing to them is happening to me too, because I need it. Like it's always a two-way process because we're so connected. We're all divinity, source that's come from that same original universal substance that has manifested into these different human bodies.
Yeah.
And so we're all connected and all part of the same puzzle.
Mm. Man, Jerry, if you had one message, right, that you wanted to leave the audience with, what, leave the world with, what would that message be for this episode? Let's say that.
Yeah, I mean, just take a deep dive into your own heart. Don't listen to anyone else. Like you can watch podcasts like this and you can get little pieces of information, messages, and they're going to be instrumental in guiding you. But ultimately, they're guiding you back into here, back into your heart, because you are an endless, infinite storehouse of wisdom. And if you take that deep dive into your heart, you're going to be able to go through the stargate of your heart and travel universes and multiverses and meet all of these different beings and have so many beautiful experiences. And you're going to get to know how powerful you are. And when you get to know how powerful you are, you're not going to need to hand your power over to anything or anyone. You don't need to be part of a church. You don't need to be part of a family. You don't need to be part of some organization. You're just going to be powerful in your own space. And when you get to that kind of stage of human consciousness, you don't need anything. And when you don't need anything, that's when you're going to meet your real soul tribe. And then all of the powerful beings start coming together.
Yeah.
And that's when we create formidable magic and powerful alchemy. And we start to create communities around the world where we share and care. And the planet's resources are shared between all men, women, and children. Nobody's fighting. Nobody's trying to dominate. Everybody's just trying to share and love and help each other up the ladder. And like it comes back to mathematics because the mathematics of the universe is running off that Fibonacci spiral, which never connects to the 0 point. But the new crystalline mathematics, they connect back to the 0 point. So as we start to recode our inner architecture and we start to run off the new earth mathematics, which are actually the ancient original mathematics, we start to climb together. We help each other up together. And we don't try and step on someone else's head to elevate. We realize that we're brothers and sisters. We start loving the crap out of each other and just honoring each other and respecting each other. And that's when the human race starts to unify. And we start to come together in deep gratitude, in deep presence, in deep love. And that's where the magic happens. Love is the key.
Yeah.
Love is
So good, brother. So good. What do you got going on, man? What's coming up?
So next Monday, we've got our next facilitator training starting. It's sold out. It's in the UK. It's a 5-day level 1 training. And then the following weekend, we're in London. We've got we do these group healings, and then once a year we do a big one for 333 people. So we get 333 people in a big circle, and we work like 8 hours, 2 days solid, just meditation, light language, running healing frequencies through them. It's unbelievably powerful. So we got that the following weekend. Then I'm back to America to go on Gaia again to talk about this kind of journey that I've been on over the last few weeks. And then we're in Florida, Orlando, running group healings, and then we've got a few things coming. The rest of the year's jammed, man. It's
Wow.
like, and then we're into 2025, So
Heck
yeah,
yeah.
there's loads of stuff happening, man. And then obviously we're focusing on building our healing center, which is,
Mhm.
taking a bit of time and energy, which is cool. So I'm really excited about that because that's going to bring people together in one space.
Wow. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
awesome.
like
I definitely got to connect with you, man. Here when you're in the States, or come see you in in London or somewhere, man. We just got our passports, like I said, and we're ready to travel. So yeah, I'm excited, and we definitely got to connect in the physical.
let me know when you're traveling, bro. If I'm in England, we'll meet up. And when I come to America, then yeah, we can hook up in America. Definitely for sure.
Sounds good. So Star Magic Healing, man, the app, the meditations, the training, all that beautiful stuff. Let people know where they can go to get tapped in and sign up for these amazing. You got a huge library. I'm how do you find the time to create all of these meditations? We create meditations too, but you got like a lot of them. Where can people go to get tapped in with these meditations?
Yeah, so if you go to starmagichealing.org, which is the website, you'll get access to all of our social media channels. If you go to the Android store or the iOS store, Apple store, and just put in Star Magic Healing, you can download the app. The app's got hundreds of guided meditations, light language transmissions, light codes, yoga, breath work, nutrition, mystery school teachings. We meet every Monday, Wednesday, and second Sunday online for activations, transmissions, meditations. We've got private groups so you can connect with all the supersonic souls in there and, you know, create friendships and brotherships and sisterships and just, maybe work together. Like the tribe has brought so many people together, from different parts of the world. So you get access to all of that free for 7 days. So go and check it out, see what you think of it, and connect with me on the inside and the rest of our team.
Uh,
Yeah.
Heck yeah, so awesome, brother. Thank you for all that you do, and man, it's an inspiration and it's an honor to watch you do what you were put here to do and shine and work with energy and bring those smiles back to people's face and see the joy return to people's hearts, man. I salute you. Thank you so much, Jerry. It's great to meet you. It's an honor.
Thank you so much, brother. Massive love, man. Massive respect.
We'll have to do it again.